Welcome everyone to Read the Book First. Today, Alyssa from Stories and Spoilers is back.
Hey.
We're going to continue last week's episode and we're going to talk about Nightbitch, the 2024 film starring Miss Amy Adams,
Love
who
her.
love,
Oh, I
love.
love her. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I really enjoyed the movie.
I love the movie more than the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally got a Hulu subscription only to watch this movie
Oh wow.
because I think it's because it wasn't at a theater. Like I couldn't the times weren't
Yeah.
available. I had work, but I was like, you know what? I'll get Hulu because then I can watch it after work. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, traffic's horrible in Miami. So I was like, yeah, I'll do Hulu. But no, her acting. I think I liked her acting in this more than anything I've ever seen.
Oh
I'm
wow.
gonna say that because I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
you anger, sadness, remorse, fear, insecurity, like everything,
Yes.
everything. Like she summed up the feeling of being a woman and the pressure
Mm-hmm.
that you feel from other people and the judgment. I have never seen that on screen before.
Yeah.
The way she did it, especially with like motherhood and being so open about
Mm-hmm.
everything. I've just never
Absolutely.
seen that before. And it was so good. She was so good.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I loved her in this. I'm still like I think I'm still processing the movie, so I don't know if I
yeah.
like whether or not I liked it more than the book or not. I'll get
Okay.
that to my like a kind of we'll get to my thoughts like once we like talk through stuff, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the movie and I rewatched this afternoon or this evening when I was eating dinner. I rewatched the beginning of it again because the beginning of this movie is so fucking good. I loved it. It just cuts right off into the like it just if you need to script writers need to watch this movie and learn how to get to the exposition, get it done. Because it opens up, she's walking through a grocery store with her kid. She sees another mom struggling with her kids, and it's like her face is like, oh, I see you. We got this. She runs into a pal that took over her job. And they do that fun thing that you've seen in movies
Yes.
before, where it's like her first reaction to the girl or the lady asking, isn't it wonderful to stay at home? She's like, I want to feel content. I'm miserable. I'm stuck, like just ranting and then they
Yes.
do a redo and she ends up being yes, I love being a mom. And then like it's so
That
good.
jump cut. It
Yeah.
was yes, it was from her point of view of what she was actually saying versus what she was actually thinking.
Yes.
Um, I saw on the edges of the screen as well that at least I pray nothing's on my computer, but on the
Hmm.
edges of the screen, it looked black. Like the
Yes.
edges of the screen looked a little black. So you realized it was in her mind versus
Yeah.
in real life, it was clear and bright and everything was moving very quickly.
Yeah, they did a
So,
good job of like a little like almost like a vignette kind of effect of it. Like
yes.
but like it's not over the top. It's not like she's like breaking the fourth wall, like staring into the camera, but it's just
Yeah.
enough that it's like, okay, these are not her thoughts, but we like it's still a little unnerving. And then it goes into like the smash cut montage of like repetitive her making the hash browns, her son toddler babbling, her walking just over and over and over. And I loved how we just like you immediately get the feeling of repetition of being stuck. Like,
The day just goes on
hmm
and on. And I did touch on it on the last episode for sure, but like I was
hmm
really there for my mom with her with like my brothers.
hmm
And I watched them for an entire summer when we didn't have childcare. So I
hmm
was with them nonstop for an entire summer.
hmm
And I was there for her from the very beginning for the years of one from like baby
hmm
to now. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
sitting here and I'm like, okay, yes, the days do blur together.
hmm
Yes, you do forget to take a shower. Yes, it's a very vulnerable situation as well because like these babies rely on you, but
Yeah.
babies are people. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
remember everything. So
hmm
before we jump too deep into it, I felt her anxiety the
hmm
entire time versus in the book, I just felt Mother for me was so detached.
hmm
In this one, I felt more like it was unavoidable. Like I felt like
Yeah.
her pain and her insecurity and what she was going through, I felt like it was around every corner. She was
hmm
uncomfortable the whole time. She was angry. I could feel it versus in the book, it just felt a little bit more like a chaotic thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This felt a little bit more organized, especially
Yeah.
with the husband. Things felt a little bit more organized.
They definitely had to make it more organized to fit the book
Hmm.
into the time constraints, but also to like make it make sense because in the book, like because that's like the perks of a book as a medium is that you can be wonkier with the style. It can make less sense for like the purpose it's trying to create. Whereas a movie, if you have a movie that was beat for beat the same as this book specifically, people would not watch it because you'd have people being like, I don't understand what's going on. Like you have to stick to certain film conventions. And I thought that the way they did that was very smart, especially in the beginning half of this movie. And I love her monologues. Like we get one right at the beginning. We get the fire, the light your fire with from within monologue, which she does fantastically because of course Amy Adams.
The
Like,
voiceover as well.
mm-hmm,
It's a lot when she's thinking in her head, I felt like, okay, this is Mother from the book. Yes. But
mm-hmm.
like, no, I felt like Amy Adams, I don't know if it was her voice or if it was her diction, but like it was something about inside of herself verbatim. It felt like it was directly from the book. Um, I did feel that. A quick difference I noticed as well from the book to the film was the Nightbitch scene, the comment of Nightbitch and the origin of
Yes.
that. The book, the first sentence is about Nightbitch and the
Mm-hmm.
self-deprecation element of it,
Mm-hmm.
versus the first scene in the movie is the grocery scene, which
Mm-hmm.
understandably, yeah. I felt like the scene with her husband in the kitchen when he says you were acting like a, and it kind of just he leaves it open,
Yeah.
and then she says like a bitch. I was acting like a bitch. You know what I mean? Like say it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I I I kind of liked that she wasn't afraid to be more angry, not just at
Yeah.
night but during the day. Yeah, I feel like she was willing to kind of put him in his place more than the book. I don't feel like she really had that
Mm-hmm.
footing in
Yeah.
the movie. I feel like she had that pretty quick. She
Yeah.
moved pretty quick.
I agree. I feel like in the book, her anger like slowly builds until she
Mhm.
kind of like explodes.
Yeah.
Whereas here in the movie, like it's more realistic where she like snaps at the husband a bit more. Which I think again, I think it's smart and I think it's adds to like, Amy Adams just being a fantastic actress. Um,
100%.
yeah, another change is when they go to the book babies, the librarian is way more active in the movie than in the book.
Yep.
Like she gets a name. Her name's Norma. Like
Yeah.
she shows up like 3 or 4 times throughout it. Um, which I think is a good idea, especially with the changes they end up making and like
Mhm.
what things were important in the book versus the movie to the mother. And then we have more of a really like just like sensory interaction with the book babies and the singing and the crying. And I was like, this is realistic.
This is life. This is
Uh-huh.
it. I guess for listeners out there who have, maybe you have seen the movie and you're listening to this episode, or maybe this book wasn't your cup of tea, but you want to know what happens. That's like
Hmm.
the merge between our podcasts is read the book first. I feel like for a lot of folks who maybe have seen movies like The Hunger Games or
Hmm.
Twilight, or maybe they grew up with certain movies, but they want an analysis of it. Maybe they didn't read the book, but they want to know the differences.
Hmm.
Your podcast is perfection. And then for mine, it's like, okay, so maybe you didn't want to read the book, but you do want to know what happens. That's like a taboo
Yes.
thing to discuss. A lot of people don't want to read these books. Sometimes they don't want to read it, but they want to know what happened. So it's like
Hmm.
you don't want FOMO. So that's kind of where I come in, where I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, here's what happens in the book. Quotes, book tropes, characters, celebrity casting, if it was a movie, all that.
Hmm.
And if you don't want to know any of that, I also do, non-spoiler. So I'll give
Yeah.
you bullet points. And then if you're like, I actually do want to read this, pause it, read it, come back. And then our episodes together, like this one, you get to see both. You get to see what happened in
Yeah.
the book and you get to see what happened in the movie and weigh where they differ and if the improvement was good, if the change was good, or if it was bad
Hmm.
and it takes away from the character or from the
Absolutely.
vibe. This movie was only an hour and 39 minutes
Hmm.
versus the book was around 8 hours as an
Hmm.
audiobook. And then as a physical copy, I think it was what? It was under 300. It was pretty
It's under
short.
300, so still pretty short. Yeah.
Yeah. So the audiobook, I do not recommend reading this book as an audiobook. I did audio and I know you
Hmm.
read it as a physical
Hmm.
copy.
Hmm.
I do not recommend the audiobook. It dragged. The
Yeah.
movie, great pacing. I did not feel
The
that time
pacing's
at
really
all.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that movie, we flew through it and it was pretty entertaining
Yeah.
overall. Also, it was directed by a woman. It was directed by
Yes.
Marielle Heller, which is pretty
Hmm.
cool. I like that it was directed by a woman. I feel like if it was directed by a man, I don't think we would have had certain scenes that would be seen as uncomfortable. And if
It
they
would have
were
hit
there,
it would
it would have
wouldn't
been
have hit as
exploitive.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think it would
I
have.
agree.
There's a scene relating to a period which is
Hmm.
very like a oh shit, like we've all been there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You're like you're doing something and then you know it's coming and you're like
yeah.
you're not prepared. You're like, okay, I'm running out of tampons or I'm in the shower. Oh my God. Like it's one of those things
Hmm.
where you're already hurting and you have things you need to do, but you're
Hmm.
also still in pain. Not fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like there were certain moments in the movie where I was like, oh, a woman was definitely behind the
Yeah.
scene for
She
sure.
she also wrote the screenplay too, which I think is smart
Mm.
for a movie like this that is so like for the book that is so like weird
Yeah.
that like you're gonna have to have someone with a singular vision heading this up, otherwise it's gonna become very disjointed because like
Mm.
we in the beginning like that like editing style and this like the like way they filmed it is like very funky and trying to put you off-putting, but then it like will slow down. Like that point where she's like
Yes.
walking with her toddler talking about the dump trucks. It's like slow. It's like 3 minutes of just some like just like
Yes.
you're like, oh, this is calm.
Them
And then it
walking
goes
on the
back to
same
crazy.
sidewalk over and
Yeah.
over. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the neighborhood becomes familiar.
Mm-hmm.
The front of the house becomes familiar. The
Mm-hmm.
very in the book, the house is described as being a lot of weird angles. It was built wrong.
Yeah.
Versus in the movie, I felt like the house was almost like a home base. It became claustrophobic, especially the bathroom. You
Yes.
could feel how small it was, and you could
Mm-hmm.
feel like, the tile, here in Florida, the tile is like a neon pink or like a yellow. And the
Mm-hmm.
husband at one point says, like, we can't afford childcare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what were we, I go to work and then, she's like, maybe I could work part-time. He's like, but we can't afford childcare.
Yeah.
And that was a really realistic scene where it's like, okay, I would
Yeah.
love to compromise, but maybe that's not financially feasible right now.
Mm-hmm.
Versus in the book, she does mention that she comes from a place of privilege and she knows that she can
Yeah.
afford this.
Yeah.
In the movie, she kind of touches on that. We're like, I should be grateful. That
Yeah.
was the scene where I was like, okay, book to film, this is pretty similar. They're
Yeah.
sisters. They're not twins. They're not twins. They're
Yeah.
definitely sisters though. They're
Mm-hmm.
very similar. It's like a voicemail
Yeah.
that goes on and it cuts off in the middle of a sentence. That's what the book feels like.
Yeah.
The movie feels more well-rounded. It definitely feels like it gives the husband a lot more grace and a lot
Mm-hmm.
more room to grow. Husband in the movie, I felt like he felt very real. Like he did
Mm-hmm.
not feel like the villain by any means. I felt bad for him in certain moments.
I felt bad for him a lot.
I
I
felt
think,
bad for him.
yeah,
In the
I
book, I
think
did not feel bad for him at all.
because like a big difference in the movie is they got rid of the whole the MLM selling herbs stuff, which I think
Hmm.
is smart because it's like a weird thing in the book. I don't mind it in the book because of the other aspects, but I'm glad they just kind of changed that. And so to replace that, they put more time on the husband and the
Yes.
mother's relationship. And
I like
he's
that.
just I liked it too. I think it's a smart choice for the adaptation part of it. I think he is pathetic enough that I'm like, oh, you are also stuck in these systems, but you're not
Mhm.
fully realizing it. Whereas the mother slash night bitch is like realizing how stuck, you know what I mean? Like,
She
obviously he's,
knows.
and he's
She
still like
Yeah.
complicit. So like he's not, he's still partially guilty for the stuff he does and
Yeah.
actively, but it's not as uh egregious, I think, as in the book.
There's definitely moments in this movie where I knew I wanted to talk to someone about it as soon as I finish it. This is
Hmm.
one of those movies where you're gonna watch it and you're gonna be like, I wonder if a person I know who has kids, in my personal life or through friends,
Hmm.
I wonder if they've ever had these conversations. If so, how did it go? There is a scene, someone says something they can't take back. A
Hmm.
pretty messed up thing to say.
Hmm.
Things happen in arguments, things happen. Um, the way that the main character responds did not happen in the book,
Hmm.
but I feel like had it happened in the book, maybe it would have fleshed her out a little more.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it happened in the movie because it was so stark.
Hmm.
And for me, it really was the before and after. Where the book, you see her begin to evolve and change and kind of come into her own. In the movie, I feel like she already had a sense of self. It was just lost.
Yeah.
And she found
Yeah.
it again by
She's
standing up
not,
to her husband.
yeah, she's not creating, in the movie, she's not creating a whole new sense of self. She's
No.
like more of merging two versions of herself. Whereas in you're right, the book, she's like essentially recreating something, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, the
Um,
the white walls comment where she's like, "Oh, I'm just white
yeah.
walls. There's nothing left."
Hmm.
In the movie, I feel like she references previously working, trying to work part-time, but we
Yeah.
don't have the descriptions of when the book with the breastfeeding and the struggle
Hmm.
of that. We don't have that talked about in the movie. We only hear the husband reference it in the bathroom where he's like, "Yeah, you used to cry and you were upset and
Yeah.
we thought you staying home." And she's like, "Yeah." And he kind of guilts her a little bit. He's like, "You said." And she's like, "I
Hmm.
did. I did." And he's like, "So that's why you're a stay-at-home mom." And she's like, "Yeah." Versus in the book, we do get a more detailed description of her really trying to juggle it all, and she wasn't able
Hmm.
to in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the difference between the book and the movie in that situation, they
Hmm.
did pull back a little bit.
Yeah. Another change I liked in the book or in the movie is how they changed the mom group. How,
Mm,
like, when she goes to the Babies and Me and we see the three moms that she ends up interacting with throughout the movie,
yes.
they, you can tell just by how, they act and how they interact with their kids and each other that they are also not all together, put together.
No.
But, like, we see not only does the mother, like, judge them because she has that moment like she does in the book where she's like, what if I met someone that was smart and intelligent who also
Hmm.
happened to be mother instead of mother first, right? And so she has that moment, but then like we the audience are like, wait, you're struggling, they're obviously struggling, they
Yeah.
also want to talk about their lives in the quote before times they use that phrase. And
Hmm.
I liked that they made it more of like this is an every mother kind of issue rather than
100%.
like this mother's issue kind of.
Yes, I actually loved her interactions with the other mothers. I think there's
Hmm.
two scenes. The first scene where they're all interacting and she's pulling back a little more. At one point she was reaching for something in her purse, and one
Hmm.
of the moms comes up behind her and like tries to be bubbly like, "Oh, hey." And it spooks the mom and she goes into like protective mode, which it happens to a lot of
Yeah.
people. You can't just walk up on people like that.
Yeah.
But I liked how instead of the big blonde in the book, the main woman who seems to be approaching her the most is actually a brunette, which it
Hmm.
didn't really matter that much, but it was a little like, in my mind, I'm like a difference. But
Yeah.
yes, she was a brunette. We do get the strawberries comment about, you smell like
Hmm.
strawberries. The dog
Hmm.
later on in the group smelled like strawberries.
Yeah.
Um, I liked how one of the moms references I used to be in the before times I was a stripper, it
Hmm.
was fun. Another mom is talking about how just their personalities, they had things that they did
Yeah.
for.
Hmm.
And she says, "Oh, I was an artist," and they touch on that. Oh, it's so cool. But she doesn't throw it out there to say I'm better. I feel like
Yeah.
she throws it out there to feel like I had a hobby too. I had a
Hmm.
passion too, and I had a career, and like they all can share that together. Versus in the
Hmm.
book, I feel like the artist element was a very much so I'm different.
Hmm.
I'm not like you. And then in this one, one of the moms brings up, "Oh, we heard you were an artist. How great!" And she's like,
Hmm.
"Yeah." And I feel like it was a lot more like she was a lot more shy
Yeah.
in the movie. And in the book,
Yes.
I feel like she was a little bit more like purposefully kind of pulling back, like, I'm
Hmm.
not like you. In the movie, I feel like she was just a little more shy and she was just ashamed of the struggle. She felt like she was struggling and no one else was struggling. And these women,
Yeah.
as the watcher, we know they're mentioning like this shit's fucking hard. And you see them struggle
Yeah.
with their kids. In
Yeah.
the book, they were all the kids were happy, no crying. Her kid was the
Hmm.
only one. In the
Hmm.
movie, you see a lot of the other kids crying
A
and
lot of crying.
being kids, having
Hmm.
meltdowns, and
Hmm.
you see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was nice. See that.
Question. That song that guy sings at the library, what
Yes.
is up with that duck?
Oh God, yeah. There's a scene in the library. If anyone knows, some parents are very particular about this, but certain shows they don't want their kids watching,
Yep.
like Coco Melon or like
Cocomelon. Yep.
Bluey. A lot of parents
Hmm.
are like, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with them watching that show, or I'm not comfortable with them singing that song very early on." Some parents are
Yeah.
like that. Glass bottle versus plastic bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pumping versus nipple, all that. So
Yeah.
in this situation, the music scene for me, it kind of like launched me back, and it made me realize the singing with the guitar and everyone's sitting on the
Hmm.
floor, and later on we see her sing the song to self-soothe in a moment
Yep.
of like of her being upset.
Hmm.
I felt like I've seen parental groups like at
Hmm.
public libraries when I worked at a library, and as a freshman in college, as well as like my local library growing up. I did see parents in the
Yeah.
children's section with their kids. So that scene for me, I'm like, Oh yeah, like I have seen that, you
Yeah.
know. Um, it's not only for the children, but also for the parents to almost
To
find
like socialize.
something, yeah, outside
Yeah.
of the norm.
Hmm.
And I liked that. Like I actually liked
It
the
was
man sitting
cute.
and being cute, and then the kids at sometimes where they were having fun, and
Yep.
sometimes it's a full blown that line between I'm
Yep.
super tired, I'm crying,
Hmm.
and everything's great, everything's fun, we're having a great time.
It's just 2 seconds between the two.
2 seconds between the two. Also,
Yeah.
when the kid runs away and you can't find them,
Yep.
that was another scene where I was like, this is so fucking real. Like where
Yeah.
you're maybe you're daydreaming for a second or you're really tired.
Hmm.
And then for a minute, the kid's gone, and you're like, oh my God, it's your worst fears combined. Like, what if they
Yeah.
fell? What if someone took them? What if they ate something? What if they choked? Like all these fears.
Hmm.
That instinctual for me, that was a moment in Night Bitch where I was like, I need to see her really panic. I need to see it, and I need to
Hmm.
see that dog. Like, I need to that animalistic. That's my son. That's my
Hmm.
baby. Where is he? I needed to see that, and we saw that in the film. We saw her go through a myriad of emotions, which is where for me the acting really came through. I felt really bad for her, and I know how tired
Yeah.
she is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that scene for me, and we always see the three dogs in the distance, which I
Hmm.
love. They pulled that from the book to the film, and it was done in a way where um I was hoping they would make it clearer in the movie. The three dogs were the three women.
Hmm.
And I liked that in the distance when she does find her son again, and she tells him you can't do that, and um they were there, like in the
Yeah.
distance. I liked that. It wasn't judgmental.
Yeah.
It was more so like,
It was
you're not alone.
supporting, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. I
No,
like
I
that.
I thought that was a good touch. I really liked whenever Amy Adams was acting like dog-like when she like at
Mm.
one point when she's like, if you wake up, I'm gonna rip your throat out. Like when
If
she
you
like
wake our
starts
son
like,
up, yeah, because he was
yeah.
being fucking loud. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If it like
Yeah.
once it like she's like starts growling, I thought like it was a good amount. I kind of wish it went a little more. Like it's really hard because once you do it too often, then it
It becomes
suddenly becomes
campy.
cheese campy and cheesy. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a really hard line, but I do wish it was a little bit more of the animal bits. Maybe not her acting more, but like more time on screen of her acting like a dog.
I could see
Um
that.
her like
I
I
wanted
wish
more transformations.
I
I will say
that's
that.
I wanted it to be
I
a
did.
little bit weirder with the dog
Hmm.
stuff.
I would
Like,
have wanted her eyes to shift when she couldn't find him in the park. I would
yes.
have loved to see some feature
Hmm.
change.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure budget wise, maybe that wasn't allocated, maybe.
Yeah.
But and the CGI was great in this movie. I liked the transformation scenes.
Yes.
In the book, it was more from her point of view and her senses. Whereas in
Hmm.
the movie, it's a full blown like fur and everything, and she
Yeah.
becomes a super cute dog. I was like, all right, girl,
Yeah.
like cool.
Like a cute little husky.
It was a cute little husky. I was like, all right, girl,
Yeah.
yeah. The days were together in the movie, and then in the book, the mom knew the amount of weeks the husband was gone throughout the year.
Hmm.
She knew the exact amount of time he was gone. Versus in the book, I felt like it was a lot more focused on her sense of time and her cracking the eggs and making the same breakfast over and
Yeah.
over again. Like even when the husband was there, quite often we found her cooking for him at the
She's still
same baby
cooking.
table.
Yep.
That I feel that was a very conscious choice. It wasn't like the baby was out on like was in one of the toddler chairs like in their
Hmm.
their dining room. It was very like they were all sit with the baby, which is cool. But
Yeah.
it was like they were all on the same level. But whenever she would cook for both her son and her husband and she would feed them at the same table,
Hmm.
it felt like her husband in a lot of ways had not grown up.
Yep. Exactly. Like she's
Yeah.
still parenting him.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
why a certain comment he makes later really
Hmm.
pissed me off.
Hmm.
Really pissed me off. And I was hoping that, I was wondering what you were feeling too. Because when he says something later, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like, because she'd been nothing but like there for him.
Yeah.
And he says something later, and I'm like, oh, that was so stupid, so stupid. And I respected her choices later in the story because I was like, what she does in the movie, I wish she'd done in the book.
Yeah.
And I think that the writer of the book probably I feel like this movie was her final version. I felt like it was definitely the version I would have wanted, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yes, the husband for me was not perfect.
No.
Arguments happen, but he said something really stupid and honestly kind of disrespectful. And I was grateful she set a boundary
Hmm.
with that.
Yeah.
So yes. And the finger painting scene, I wanted to know how you felt about that versus the book to the film. What were
I
your
I
thoughts?
love the finger painting scene in the movie. In the book, like it's just a disaster and she gets
Yeah.
no like it just becomes a chore, which it definitely does become a chore in um the movie and she even comments on it like she like is cleaning and she like becomes like exasperated like she's like oh this is my fault. But while the baby is painting she is like cheering him on. She is like gently asking him like artistic questions. Like you can tell she's an artist with how
Yes.
she's treating the like, oh, your co how what's that gonna look like? You know, it's
He
not like
looks, can I put my
mhm,
foot? Yes, put your foot, do
yeah.
your thing. It was
Mhm,
fun. It and
yeah.
also there's a little bit of music, I think.
Hmm.
It's definitely very low, but the lighting changes when they're happy together.
Hmm.
Her
Yeah.
happiest moments are with her son.
Yeah. No.
And
I
yeah,
thought that was a good touch. Yeah.
yeah, I
Um
like that.
the body stuff. So the first
Yes,
bit is the cyst slash tail where she pops it with a needle,
yes.
and a big
Versus in the
chunk of
book, it was the paint.
hair.
Yeah, it was like a
Yeah,
little knife, and then it was
yeah,
the needle from the bathroom.
yeah,
I put body horror element. I would consider it body horror, and the
yeah,
lump on her back begins to ooze.
yeah. And the ooze is gross. And
Yeah, the long thing of fur. It wasn't even like a
ah,
full tail. It was like,
no, it was like a hairball coming out of her
listen,
cyst.
we're women, all right.
Yeah,
Hair grows, shit happens, but like
yes.
it's natural. It's okay. Please do not go popping any massive blumps. Go to a
Hmm.
doctor. Like go to a
Hmm.
doctor. And I know that she was a mom, and she didn't have the time, but the infection she could have gotten.
Hmm.
Imagine having to go to the doctor to get the medication and
Yeah,
possibly surgery. Like
yeah.
yeah, in real life, go to a doctor.
Go to
Like
a doctor.
go to
Yeah.
please don't pop things like that on your own. It's an infection waiting to happen. In my head, the first thing I thought was, "Oh my God, it's gonna get infected." Like I
Hmm.
in the book, no, but in real life, I'm like, girl,
At least
oh,
she
it
like
was,
used the like lighter to like at least that, but like
oh
no.
God,
And
oh
then
God,
the part
no.
I forgot this happened in the book because we didn't really touch on it, but she
Mhm.
grows nipples. And
Yes,
like so that's part in the movie. Like I had forgotten about that.
yeah,
Um and like when we see that, I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh yeah, she's turning into a
yeah,
dog, she's growing more nipples. And
yeah.
I was like shocked for a second.
I think the nipples, if
Yeah.
if you've seen dogs and cats and everything,
Mhm.
I even though the nipple scene was like, whoa, shock
Yeah.
factor, I was more like grounded by seeing a woman's body that wasn't like Coca-Cola
Hmm.
shape, super
Yes.
flat tummy,
Absolutely.
like she had rolls and like
Yes.
and she had paler parts of her skin that didn't match the color of
Hmm.
her arms and like
Yeah.
um the nipple part, yes, like that was the part we were supposed to be focusing
I
on.
had just like forgotten about that in the
Yeah,
book.
but
So
for
when I
me,
saw it, I
there
was
was
like,
something
oh.
about seeing her in like a skin-colored bra that's obviously
Hmm.
been worn a ton and like seeing her tummy wasn't completely flat. I didn't realize how much I needed to see that
Yes.
from someone who is a parent, but also a
Yes.
woman who's going through a major life change that doesn't have the time
Yeah.
to make a green smoothie and to work out
Hmm.
3 to 4 days a week. Like it was actually very nice to see Amy Adams consciously make the choice to show her
Yes.
body in a way that was like, all right, taking off my shirt, this is what I look like.
And
And
it doesn't
I
happen that
yeah,
often. Like it's
it's
obvious
not.
in throughout this movie, like Amy Adams, I'm not one to comment on people's weights because that's none of my business.
No.
But like it's nice to see like an Oscar winning like a star
Yeah.
actress not be like super conventionally thin, to
Hmm.
not have obviously she has like no makeup, and if she does, it's makeup to look like she is even more tired,
Exactly.
right?
Even later on when things get
Mhm.
better, it's still
Her hair is
pretty minimal.
still
Yeah.
it's very minimal. Her hair is still like quote on like not like done up or
Yeah. She
whatever.
looks like
It's
she's living like she's busy. She looks like she's
she's
fucking busy.
busy.
Yeah.
And like I love that we see her that and like I'm like this is like that made it feel like so real throughout it.
Yeah.
That I thought it was a really good touch. And they could tell that it also wasn't a fat suit because fat suits should not be used in movies,
I
Hollywood,
agree.
whatever.
I agree.
Yeah, so it was nice to you could just tell like that was her
That was her body.
as she was. And
Yeah.
yes, I agree that there was like a bit of healing, even with the
Yeah.
bizarreness of the dog parts.
Even the like the cyst moment and the nipples moment, I more so felt like, and like I said, like I didn't expect to be affected by this movie so much.
Hmm.
But for me, I was just like, if you've ever seen your mom as your mom gets older,
Hmm.
if you've ever had to care for a parent or care for someone you care about who's gone through a major life change,
Hmm.
seeing them so vulnerable and,
Yep.
and seeing someone whose body, this is going to be you later on. Your body's going to shift and change. You're going to gain weight. You're going to lose weight. It the major conflict in the story wasn't even about her body.
Yeah.
And that was so important. The major conflict was about the miscommunication and the expectations and the pressure on both herself and her
Hmm.
relationship and
Hmm.
motherhood. And I appreciated that the moments when she was alone in the bathroom
Hmm.
felt like the only times where she could really panic or she could really be honest.
Hmm.
Even the scene in the bathroom where she's like, it's going to be a heavy one. Like my cycle's going to be heavy.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go buy milk, you should also buy some tampons. And the
Yeah.
husband's being all snippy and snappy. Well, did you know the milk was running out? I have known people who've made comments where they're like, "Well, did you know? If I'd known,
I would
probably
have
would have
done
probably
something.
would have bought someone to replace it." She's in a shower and he's trying to communicate with her,
Hmm.
but he needs this, and he never not once asked what she needed.
Hmm.
And it just so happens that her cycle is on its way. We can feel when it's coming. If you
Hmm.
can't feel it, there's a calendar. Yeah, I mean, you
Hmm.
got apps. Like we have ways, but there's something to be said for she knows her body, be it the dog element or just an element of being a person who experiences cycles.
Hmm.
She knows it's coming and she knows it's going to be heavy. And sometimes you just know.
Hmm.
And that scene where you see it on the shower floor, um, that was like, once again, I've never, besides Carrie from Stephen King,
Yeah.
never seen that in a
Yeah.
movie. Carrie's a fucking horror movie. So I'm just sitting here and
Hmm.
I'm like, the fact that menstrual cycles are such a like, don't talk about it.
Yeah. So
You know,
taboo.
hide your tampon, hide your pad in your purse, hide it in your jacket. Like, just that sense of like, for her to tell her husband, go pick up some tampons as well if you're gonna pick up milk. It's not just about
Hmm.
you. I didn't feel like she was being mean in that moment. You need something, I need something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a marriage for a reason. It's a partnership for a
Hmm.
reason. I just feel like Amy Adams was badass for that, for being able to be like, you know what? I'm turning into something. The teeth scene, exactly from the book. I feel something. Her
Yeah.
husband's like, oh well, you always think that. Maybe,
Hmm.
but at least in the book, she was outspoken.
Yeah.
If not a little unsure at times, she always voiced when something was off. And
Yeah.
she does tell him about the cyst right away.
Hmm.
And I like that. She did communicate, hey, like, there's this thing I found on my body. I said that in the book she shows her husband the tail, and in the movie she doesn't. She only mentions the
Yeah.
teeth.
She hides the dog part from him.
Yeah.
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 Which I think it makes sense because most of the dog in the movie, most of the dog aspects of her end up being when she's parenting the son and less so
Mhm.
during like the actual night bitch part. Like we get like two, maybe three when parts where she's actually a dog.
Mhm.
The first transformation scene I love. She goes into the back. She starts like as a human starts digging into the dirt and we
Yeah.
have like a voiceover being like, I need to touch the earth, like all this,
Yeah.
and slowly like CGI transforms. I thought it was a really well done way of doing the transformation. It wasn't like crazy over the top, like Animorph style, you know?
I did like how I kind of realized her hair is similar to the book. It got bigger. It
Hmm.
got bigger and bigger. In a way,
Hmm.
I was like, okay, this could be humidity, right?
Yeah.
But no, like her hair got bigger.
Hmm.
Um, I also noticed that she would dress in these like button downs, these very flowy button down shirts,
It was
very
very
similar,
art
like
teacher.
very art teacher, very like daughter of the bride, father of the bride, where like they would always wear the button down shirts and the white sneakers and the
Hmm.
jeans, very similar. And I was like, okay, like I love a good button down, yeah. But she wasn't dressing to accentuate her body at one point. At some points, I felt like she was hiding her body a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and later on, we see she's constantly wearing this necklace, and then the more experience and the more confidence she gets, the more buttons come off. And I
Hmm.
realized that I'm like, okay, the buttons are going lower and lower.
Hmm.
And she also she tilts her head in this way throughout the story a few times where I was like, my dog tilts his head a lot when he's like when
Yep.
he's listening or responding. Even her mannerisms, I was like, fuck
Hmm.
yeah. Like she was really like leaning into it. Weird girl. We discussed it last episode. Weird
Yes.
girl. Like she was not afraid to be like, all right, what do you mean? What? What? I was like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, who are you calling a bitch? Like I'm sitting here
Hmm.
and I'm like, you know what? Claim it, Nightbitch. Let's go. I was like, we ride it on. The three dogs, like mirroring the three women as well. In
Hmm.
I made
Like
a
their
note
color
where
scheme.
yes, I was like, big blonde mom from the book group in the film is a brunette and doesn't
Hmm.
have twins. In the book, she has twins. In
Yes.
the movie, she only has one. And the mothers in the group are only with their kids in the beginning. And then during the conversation scene in the library versus over wine, their kids aren't there.
Hmm.
It's alluded to that they're in another room, but in the library scene where they're all three around each other, and one of the
Hmm.
mothers is actively pregnant.
Yeah.
And also, I love the representation. We discussed in the book how everyone was Caucasian. In
Hmm.
the movie, it
Hmm.
felt more real, where there was
Yeah.
people from a lot of different communities, ages,
Hmm.
weights. I
Yeah.
like that. It felt more real.
It
I did.
did.
I was paying attention a little bit more. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is a real world.
You walked into a random library and that's the moms you saw.
Hell yeah, yeah, and also
Hmm.
pregnancy, having a kid. Many women across many different cultures have it.
Yeah.
In some situations, it's not that big of a deal, and in some it
Yeah.
is. But the women in the group, one of my favorite scenes is when they were in the library, and then when they were all having wine in the library, where one of the women is pregnant, and Amy Adams is saying to her, I'm gonna say Amy Adams because the mother doesn't have a name. I
Yeah.
love me some Amy Adams. So Amy Adams is Amy Adams with her beautiful Oscar. Amy Adams is sitting at the library and all the girls are talking in a circle, and it's the first moment where it feels like they're all friends.
Hmm.
And one of the mothers is saying how, like, I can't believe I decided to do this again. Like, this is her second pregnancy. And her husband made some comment and she's like, I can't believe I'm doing this again. And it's not like I can't believe. It's very much like, yeah, I'm doing it
This is a
again.
lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. I'm going into it. Maybe a little bit nervous. They're
Hmm.
discussing childbirth. Oh, they're discussing childbirth. And the Amy Adams, someone said something about, like, my husband said the sounds that came out of me were like
Or like animalistic. Yeah.
animalistic, and she's like, I just kind of let go. And then one of the women, who is the brunette, who is supposed to be the big blonde, my husband passed out, he can't handle blood, which
Hmm.
also kind of highlights maybe the a little bit of loneliness, the fact that he passed out, so she'd experience the rest of that alone.
Hmm.
um just like the fight to survive and to complete this task. And at one point, Amy Adams looks at the woman who's pregnant and she's like, you're powerful. Like, you're a goddess. Like, you can do this. You can. And what we do is powerful. We create life. You're growing limbs right now. Right now. And the mother is like rubbing her stomach. She's like, I am. And
Hmm.
she needed that. And like that was the pack moment where I'm like, yes, yes. And then the animals being delivered, it all kind of coincides in a way with the animals at
Yes.
the front door. The women respected her in that moment as a
Hmm.
human, as a mother, and then later on as Night
Hmm.
Bitch.
I thought it was so good. The mom was like, "Yeah, I am powerful." I was just like,
Mhm.
"That is just." I loved that version of what they decided, the adaptation to it.
Yeah.
Another thing they added more of throughout, which I thought was a smart move, was flashbacks to the mother's upbringing. So we get a
Hmm.
flashback of her coming from like what we can assume is either an Amish or Mennonite community.
Yes.
They're singing, we get them singing the song "It's by the Sweet By and By," which is a song like I grew up singing in church, and so
Oh
like my mom loves
no.
that song, so I was like, oh,
Oh.
yeah, and her she's like as a little girl watching her mom, who we know from the book wanted to be a singer, but we see her, we don't really get that as much from the
Hmm.
movie. We also know that her mom in the movie has passed, so that is why there's like a disconnect between her and her mother. But she gets these like little memories of her mom like wandering into the dark, and which just when she's in the shade, she like bends over, and like as the audience we're like, oh, she's turning into a dog, but it's like
Yes.
unclear.
We don't quite see it.
Yeah.
Yes. And in
At
the
one
book, the
point,
mom's alive and
yes.
does not transform,
Mhm.
to our
Well,
knowledge.
I mean,
There's a cat
there's like, oh,
reference about
yes.
cats.
It's like there's something to do with animals because then we have a bit with her, like her grandma being like
Mm-hmm.
into like some sort of witch sorcery, putting a
Yes.
chicken foot in some soup kind of
But it
something
could have been, but
mystical.
it leaves room as well for like maybe holistic eating. So it's
Yeah.
it like, maybe like she's a very like by the earth kind of woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is also referenced in the book, like you said. Like, in
Mm-hmm.
the book, her views of blood and the meat, she grew up having to witness them kind of kill, unalive animals and to survive and, to cook and maintain their food. So she's used to, blood and meat and, so when she goes to the book, she's not, all this meat in her fridge in the book doesn't freak her out because growing up
Mm-hmm.
there was the ice house and she remembers all of that. In the movie, I did notice the mom was always in tears or on the
Yes.
brink of tears. The only scene
Mm-hmm.
we don't see her in tears is when she lays in the grass with the music, which
Mm-hmm.
feels a lot more dreamlike. Is this a memory or is this more like how she envisions her mom in the
Yeah.
afterlife? It wasn't quite clear,
Mm-hmm.
on that end. And I kind of
Yeah.
liked that. I liked that we
Yeah.
didn't know if it was a memory or if this is like her coming to terms with um motherhood and missing her mom and,
Mm-hmm.
her past.
Yeah.
It felt more dreamlike in
Mm-hmm.
the movie. And then the book,
Yeah.
her mom to me was just, they call
It's
it
a
labor
big
because it's hard work.
disconnect. Yeah.
Yeah, her mom
Yeah.
in the book wasn't great, but her mom in the movie, I was like, "Ooh, this is a complex woman right here."
Yeah.
Like,
I will say there's with the voiceover during some of the memories, she talks about how she thinks of it as the great forgetting because when her mom died, she forgot about her childhood, which is like so different than from the modern world she now lives in. And she
yeah.
like mentions it like later on in a second like flashback. She's like, "Oh, and why am I remembering this? Why is this important?" And like
Mhm.
I feel like there's not an I like that idea so much of having like this bit of grief tied into her like her confusion and ill content of motherhood being like tied together, but it didn't pay off quite enough for me. I thought it was a really cool idea and a really
Weird.
unique way of taking that from the book and like adding and changing it. I just wish there was like one more bit of her and her mother. We do get that later on towards the end where her mom wakes her up in the middle of the night and says, "I'm your mother and I'll always come back." And I like that made me tear up. I thought that was so powerful, but I
I
wish there
felt
was
that
like
too.
just a little bit more. Like maybe it was because it was so good I wanted more. I don't know. I can't figure out if it was like I just want more of it or if there was something like a need for something more, you know?
Yes, I think the moment when I don't remember the scene before when she was in bed as a child and her
Hmm.
mom comes to her bedside and she's like, I thought you were gonna leave forever because you're a
Hmm.
kid, and you miss them, you miss your
Hmm.
parent. And her mom saying, I always come back. Similar to
Hmm.
how if you feed a dog, it'll always come back. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? In this way, I felt like that's saying, don't feed it, it'll always come back with mothers and their children. My mom always like I talked to her about this movie and she's like, I can always feel you. She's like, I know when something's wrong. I know when you're not sleeping. Like I just know. I just know. And she's like, no one will ever love you as much as your parent. Like there's something
Hmm.
instinctual. It's just a different kind of love.
Hmm.
Same thing with siblings. It's just a different kind of love, you know?
Hmm.
That sense of even though her mom was gone, it it just makes you want to hug your mom more
Yeah.
and it makes you want to hug your parent in that moment like
Hmm.
oh like that scene really hit me. And then the scene with her and her son in the grass,
Hmm.
her and her son like playing together, and the montage of them eating out of the dog bowls, her putting him to bed in the dog bed. The way I saw it was more so finding a structure that worked for them, no matter how
Yeah.
weird, no matter who was judging, they found something that worked for them.
Hmm.
And as I was watching this scene, like I just thought about my dad and I. Like my dad loves climbing trees as a kid. It was something that
Hmm.
brought him a lot of comfort. So he shared that with me. And even
Hmm.
though people were judges, he's a grown man. Like this is a 6'1" grown man. He looks like Ashton Kutcher. He like grown man. He had a man bun
Yeah.
and everything. My dad would like in his sandals try to climb these big trees like a 5-year-old little girl. And like
Yeah.
he was just his joy and whimsy for life,
Hmm.
and not being afraid of being judged. That form of parenting working for someone.
Yeah.
Some parents, they bring their hobby to their child to bond.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird, but it works for us, and it's in
Hmm.
the movie. She has that very conversation with her husband where the husband's like, well, the dog bowl and the collar, this is all weird, but he's happy.
Yeah.
He's sleeping. I really related to that. And even though, yes, in reference to a dog, oh, this is weird. In real life, some people they do things with their kids that they have fun,
Yeah.
and it works and it tires them out and they go to bed or they
Hmm.
build memories. Like I got really emotional seeing them like roll in the grass and run in the grass together and like
Hmm.
just her connection. I just felt like, oh, like this is gonna hit me real. Oh, and it did. I cried for sure.
Yeah.
And Amy Adams and her chemistry with the child, like just their love for each other, I
Hmm.
believed. Like I could totally believe like that was her son.
Yeah.
And I did feel the distance between the son and the father in
Hmm.
the book and in the movie. But
Yeah.
definitely in the movie with the bath scene and him being on the toilet on his phone, and the son being in the bath, and in that was the same as the book, the towel and can you warm the towel, can you bring him his drink or his toast or whatever, like just little
Yeah.
shit like that was the same as the book. But I felt like just the lighting, there was something about the lighting as well as like the tone was so much warmer when it was the mom and the son versus the
Hmm.
father and the son. The only other time that we see them alone without the mother there is the pasta scene.
Hmm.
And I don't want to go too deep into that until we hop into the
Yeah.
big boy scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The actor friends in the
Hmm.
dinner scene, I
Yes. The
they were
artists.
such
I
assholes.
hated them.
All
Yeah.
of them. Like one of them was like kind of nice, but like most of them were like it was very much like we live in this city. Anyone outside the city is not part of society. Like it was very much
Yes.
that. And I was
Yes.
like, girl, look at your hair.
Listen, the dinner scene, when
Yeah.
it was dark. In the dinner
Hmm.
scene, the lighting was dark, which for me, I can't stand small spaces, like hot small spaces. I could
Yeah.
feel that restaurant. Like I felt like it was like
It
there's a
was
lot of
very
people, there's a lot of sound.
claustrophobic.
She could
Yeah.
barely hear herself. Yeah. The kale salad, she was eating it just like the book, just
Hmm.
nonstop. She's describing the flavors and how fresh it
Hmm.
is. Similar to the grocery scenes where she could, the meat and but this time she just described she looks so fucking sad. Like she ordered
Yeah.
it because everyone around her was ordering like really healthy foods, as she did. Just the pressure,
Yeah.
and you could tell like she's been eating meat this whole time. Like, she probably wants some protein. Yeah,
Hmm.
girl. No, and I was like, I could feel her hunger. I
Hmm.
could feel her need to feel close again and feel accepted again. And she goes through her old art at one point. She goes through her portfolio. I felt like these people were so distant. And I
Hmm.
also realized the way that they were seated, she was seated at the head of the table, but
Hmm.
their seats were actually quite far away from her. So she did also feel distant even within the shot of the film. I was like, okay, okay, cinematography. I took one class in film, like and analyzing film, and it's always
Hmm.
stayed with me because I'm just sitting here and I'm like, just look at the way that things are shot, the way that people
Yep.
sit. You feel closed and far away. Um,
Hmm.
and if a shot includes one, like a person's face up close, you feel very close. And the face is the best actor of facial expression. But when there's two people in a shot, in the case of the dinner scene, there's multiple people in the shot and they're all positioned to be away from her,
Hmm.
like a triangle. They're all super far from her. Her monologue and her description of how she was feeling when she finally fucking flips, and
She starts
I can
barking.
I can crack a walnut on my vagina. I created life. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, yeah, girl. Yeah, girl. And the whole burger scene, she takes the burger. Like that was like the book. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, like and she runs out. The scene with the dog running through the cars,
I love
that
that.
powerful scene. I was like, okay, yes, the metaphor. Okay, like she's running
Yeah.
away. Like I can't do this
She's running
anymore.
away. She's free.
Yes.
They're trapped. This is how,
Yes.
it was
But
it
if you're
was
gonna be a
good.
dog, loved it. A dog in the
Yeah.
city too. A dog in the city
Hmm.
running. I've never seen a dog just running like a dog that well kept.
Yeah. We have the little bit of a monologue, right, where she says, I
Yes.
want to be a monster. And then she
Yes.
has a dog kills her cat.
Yes.
And this is a difference. And we don't
Hmm.
see it as much, which I
No.
think, I mean, not that I want to see that happen on screen, but like going from the book where it's like so bloody and her as a person killing it with a knife, I
Yeah.
think it makes more sense that her as a dog is killing it. Um,
Yeah.
but I thought that
And it's
was
a
an interesting
blur.
change. Yeah, it's blurred.
It feels
You
more like
see
a
the
blur in the movie. Yeah.
yeah, it's barely there.
I feel
Um,
like it needed to feel that way because it was a little bit more
mhm,
uh like a fever dream.
mhm,
It felt like in that moment it was more of a fever dream versus in the
yeah.
book, I felt like it was more of a concise decision. In the
Mhm,
movie, I felt like it was more like a fever dream. The night was already going to shit. You know, she was already embarrassed. She was already angry. She was beginning to realize that her past isn't really what she wanted anymore. Her husband
mhm,
was, she, I could tell whenever he would leave, she felt like he was like, he'd always leave after having a small conflict, or he'd always leave when
yeah,
like he was satisfied, or like, you know what I mean? Like when he got the attention he wanted. It just felt very one-sided. And at one
absolutely.
point she does leave with their son. It's like a book mommy situation. They leave and the husband's the one sitting at the front of the
Mhm,
house, and you can see him looking kind of like, "Oh, you don't
yeah.
want to see me off?" But she sees him off every time. So that was the
Mhm,
first time when she had to leave and go do her own thing. So I felt like it was all building and building and building, plus the
mhm,
shitty dinner, plus she was hungry. You know, she ate that salad,
yeah.
wasn't actually satisfied. She spits it out. All this is building, and then the crescendo is the cat unaliving scene and the argument.
Mhm,
And the argument felt like the merge of Night
yeah.
Bitch, you know, I'm evolving and you're not evolving with me. And, you know, the conflict in the marriage and the blur between wife and mother and
Yeah.
the desexualizing her, the
Mhm,
kind of pushing her needs aside, all of it was just building to this argument
yeah.
that
Does she
needed to happen.
does she start it? I forget. Does she start it with saying
Oh.
that she wants to separate?
No, I think if I remember correctly, he's sitting at the table and he's got like wine or whatever, and
Yeah.
he brings up like all these changes and all this shit going on, and he's concerned
Mhm,
that it's gonna affect their son's like it's gonna affect him, like people are gonna bully him.
yeah.
And that's similar
Yeah.
to the book. The dad does bring up that if he gets bullied, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Similar.
Mhm,
And then it leads to, you know, what happened to the woman I fell in love with. What happened to you? You
yeah.
used to challenge me.
Mhm,
You used to A, B, and C. Now you're like my mom.
yeah.
Now you're like, and for me, what happened to her? What happened to my wife?
Yeah.
And she says she died during
She died in
childbirth.
childbirth.
What a what a intense like moment
Mhm.
of, and there's no sound. It's just their argument in their kitchen. The first time we see them at the adult table, adult
Yes.
conversation. They did sleep together at one point earlier
Yeah.
on the story. You know, she's dirty in the you know in the
Mhm.
shower, and he's like, "You're dirty," and she's like, "Yes." He's like, "Where'd you go?"
Mhm.
Out,
Uh,
out.
Went on a
You know,
walk or
run for a
run.
walk. Her feet are filthy. This girl's dirt. Like she's
Yeah.
filthy. And he's like, "Can I come in?" And that was the first time I was like, we see him more vulnerable,
Yeah.
and I feel like we see him asking for intimacy, you know,
Mhm.
miss you in this way. And
Mhm.
she's also expressing, I also miss you in this way. And in the
Mhm.
book, they do have that moment, you know,
Yeah.
together. In the shower, I just felt like it was a lot more realistic, where it
Mhm.
was very much so, you know, can we do this together? I do miss you.
Yeah.
And I it fleshed out the husband a lot more for me, saying he
Mhm.
does miss her when he's gone. He does still see her in this way. And he's able to separate her as a mother, her as a woman, and their marriage, and really prioritize her as a woman versus just being the mother
Mhm.
of his child, and almost like taking away her needs. I feel like
Mhm.
he 100% was like, I still want you in that way. You know, are we cool with this? And she's like, yes.
Yeah.
Even in this state where between Night Bitch and her, I am dirty. I'm not changing for you. I'm in the middle of doing something. I still want you.
Mhm.
That one for me was okay. 1 point for the husband. I like that he was, you know, all right. Can we be together in this way? I like that. The
Mhm.
fight for me, the comment about, you know, you're like my mom. What happened to my
Mhm.
wife? It, even the scene where he's like, maybe if you made a schedule earlier in the movie, and she
Yeah.
slaps him in her mind, but in real life, she's like, yeah, maybe I should.
Mhm.
I All of this was building to this argument, and I just
Yes.
wanted to know your thoughts, because when he makes that comment and she says she her past version died in childbirth, we only hear died in childbirth in reference to mothers who didn't make it, or to babies who didn't make it. And
Yeah.
in this situation, she's almost referencing her past self. I didn't make it.
Mhm.
That shit really changed me.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
walks away.
I thought, I think this like argument, I think really brings all the little issues we've seen throughout the movie together.
Yeah, it
I
builds ahead.
And like in that conversation, they also talk about like she talks about how she's struggling. She talks about how she maybe can do the part-time stuff. And he says,
Hmm.
I wish I could have helped. And she's
Yeah.
like, I wish you would have given a hesitation when I said, I guess I'll quit my job. You just said yes.
Mhm.
It wasn't
They end up
we
moving to a
didn't
different location. They moved to the
mhm.
bedroom. Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
closer in that
Yeah.
moment. They're
Yeah. And
physically closer. Yeah.
and so she's like, yes, I would have liked your help, but also you didn't take any action
Offer.
of maybe a second guess. Like,
Hmm.
so it's like a good amount of anger, but also regret at just actions on both sides of,
Yeah.
both not standing up for herself, but also him not standing up for her,
Yes.
or
He also
them.
asked her if she regrets it. Big question. I've read a lot of books about communication. I've been trying to learn about communication.
Hmm.
And one of the big things people always say, they ask questions they don't actually want to know the answer to, or they
Hmm.
think they know, and then they end up getting an answer they don't like.
Hmm.
In this situation, he asked her an open question: Do you regret it?
Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
like she does not. This is not happened in the book with the question of do you regret? No,
Hmm.
but in the movie, great moment. I just feel like we needed the big fight, and then we needed the more down to earth, coming
Hmm.
down. Where are we? I still love you, but where are we? Obviously, there's been some damage. Obviously, there's been some trust broken. Where does this leave us? Also, we have a child, and we need to kind
Yeah.
of figure this out.
Yeah.
Um, she does not regret it, but she does wish he had played a more active role and not
Hmm.
had left it all on her. And now they're doing things that work for her and her son and work for, but their marriage really is on the rocks. And she ends up communicating that she needs time.
Yeah.
He does end up getting an apartment off screen. We do find him in his own apartment. He describes
Hmm.
it as like all the sad dads are there,
Yeah,
you
which
know?
cracked me up because my parents split when I was young, and for a few years, my dad lived in a condo neighborhood, and there was quite a lot of other divorcee dads in that
Man,
neighborhood.
I've only ever known my parents split up. My
Hmm.
whole life, I've never known them
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
So yes, my dad also lived like
Hmm.
this must be a thing. Yeah, my dad also lived in a condo.
Yep.
Yeah, and like yeah,
And they're
I'm
all like
really
the same, and they all have the same furniture that was
yes,
just like whatever's
yeah,
the cheapest they got.
bro. Like I was sitting here, I'm like, oh my God, like, bruh. And even the scene, there's a scene where he just okay, so they have that discussion. We get a little bit of a montage of their lives at that point.
Him
And
trying to parent alone was like hilariously pathetic. And like
yes,
it was equally like I felt bad for him because he
yes,
wants to be a good dad, like, and he is trying,
yeah.
but he just doesn't have the skills because he hasn't practiced in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, my
Mm-hmm.
dude, if you would have like actually tried
Yes. And when
more.
he realizes that comment about making a schedule. There's a
Hmm.
scene in the movie where she has a little board and she makes like a plan on the calendar of what to do. She tries. She
Yeah.
tries to make a schedule that works for her and her son. And I say her and her son because when the husband's gone, it's okay. When the husband's gone, it really is just her and her son.
Yeah.
So she is a single mom for a majority of the month, so it's in that
Hmm.
situation. So I feel like when the husband when you see him in the apartment and
Hmm.
he puts a glass plate on the table in front of a 2-year-old
And
and
turns around.
he turns around, the kid picks it up and throws it on the ground. That my brothers threw food all, they were kids, they're
Absolutely.
playing. When the kid does that, he turns around and he's like, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" The son's like, "I don't know. It fell. I don't know." Because he's a kid. He's a
Yeah.
kid.
I fell and
Um,
then I threw it. Or
and then I
it
threw
fell.
it. Yeah, and it really stays on the husband cleaning and really, he
Hmm.
doesn't know. Um, for me, then you also get a shot of her in her alone time being able to paint and
And
being
do
able
her
to
art.
do her art and be alone and quiet. She's not painted as a bad guy, thank God.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
not painted as the bad guy for needing some space.
Yeah.
Not from her son, but she
Hmm.
needed her husband to be a parent and to step in and allow her the space she gave him.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, necessary. there is a scene earlier in the movie, I don't think we mentioned, he makes a comment of when she's going with the art friends, oh, I'll babysit him.
Yeah, the
And she
babysitting
says, you
thing.
can't
You
babysit
can't
your
babysit
own
your own
son.
kid. It's like,
Yeah, and
it's
he's
the
turning around,
same
he's like, I
difference.
didn't mean it like that. That's what you said. That's what you said, So, but yes, we do get a montage of that. And then when he comes back with the son, she's refreshed.
Hmm.
And he asked her, like, oh, how was it? It was nice. It was nice. I just felt like, you know what? Good for you, Amy Adams. Good for you. I was like, all right, girl. But yeah, so yeah, he comes back. He makes a comment about the
Hmm.
sad dads in the condo. She's like, okay, well, bye. And
Yeah.
he ends up watching her through the window for a moment. I guess, like, he misses home and he makes a
Yeah.
comment about missing home.
Yeah.
Well,
Should have cherished it when you had it, dude. Like,
yeah, and
tough luck, man.
exactly, my man. And he's looking at her through the window,
Mhm.
and she's telling her son how much she missed him. And it alludes to the fact that she's not voicing she misses her husband, and he's feeling left out.
Yeah.
And speaking of feeling left out, earlier in the movie, there's a scene where she gives her son a piece of food.
Oh yeah. The
Her son's
bacon?
like, yes. And
The
she goes,
bacon scene.
yes. And
Oh
she
my
gives
God.
bacon. And he's like, no, no, no. She goes, bark, bark. He goes, bark, bark. And the husband's like, that's so weird. And she's like, do you feel left out? He's like,
Yeah.
no. And she's like,
Beg for it.
beg for it. He's like, I'm not doing that. And she's like, beg for it. He's like, when I tell you bacon, I sat here and I'm like, you better. I'm like, this man cannot admit that he gets jealous of his
Hmm.
own son. Just it was like it was it's gonna sound very fucked up, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, he's a baby. He needs his attention. He needs it. It's literally fundamental.
Yeah.
But I can also see from the husband's point of view, a lot of people's marriages go to the wayside because
Yeah.
they're raising their children. And then the marriage falls apart and it becomes loveless because they were so focused on
Hmm.
raising their children. In this situation, I did want to acknowledge at least he
Yeah.
may have been feeling lonely. He may have been
Absolutely.
feeling lonely.
Yeah.
Let's hear him
Yeah.
out. And the Begford scene can be seen one of two ways. I'm jealous of my son.
Hmm.
He's getting attention from my wife that I'm not getting. I'm working nonstop. I miss my family.
Hmm.
You know, kind of come down from your high horse. If you want something, you better ask for it. And you know what? He did. All right. And then on the other side, beg for it. I'm not doing that. I'm a grown man. I don't ask for anything.
Hmm.
If you want attention,
Yeah.
you need to meet her halfway. If this
Hmm.
dog shit is weird, so be it. She's burning out. It's been two
Yeah.
years. How about you have a little bit of humor? Come on. And you meet your wife where she is,
Mhm.
you know? So I could see it from either way. How did you take the bacon scene?
I thought it added to the mother's dominance because
Mhm.
like she is the alpha of this dog pack, and so
Yeah.
she's like starting to become the alpha of her own life, right? So she's
Mhm.
starting to make more decisions here because this is like right before like it's like a few scenes before the big argument, right? So it's leading up to that. So I feel like yes, it is him kind of being like wanting attention, but
Mhm.
also him slowly accepting the whole dog thing, right? Like he's
Yeah.
now like the first time he's actively a part of it, whether it makes him be a little quote pathetic, but I think there's like a balance in their relationship. Like you can see
Yes.
parts of that, how maybe it used to be back when they had more time for their relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so
Maybe you do need to relinquish a little bit of control because
yes,
he was
yeah.
coming as he came home when he wanted, he left
Mm-hmm.
when he had to leave, that car
Mm-hmm.
was always waiting. Intimacy, he started intimacy, it was a lot of it seemed to have been on his terms.
Yeah.
Even the scene where he was asleep and his child was crying and he didn't move, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things seemed to be on his terms. She was
Mm-hmm.
at the whim of his, and then when he would leave she'd always say goodbye. There
Mm-hmm.
was a structure that fit his life. When things began to shift, she made a calendar. She wasn't saying goodbye
Mm-hmm.
to him. Her son and they had a hobby, they had a thing that was just for
That
them.
wasn't
Didn't
without
include the
him, yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
We're playing doggy. He's not playing that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get to share in that role play. This is only a mom and son situation. We didn't
Yeah.
really see him have a bonding moment with his son where it was only a them situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even the three of them all playing dogs, we didn't get to see that.
Yeah.
You know, so the trains, we don't really get to see him play with his son with even the son's own individual hobby. So it just
Hmm.
seemed like he was feeling left out a lot. So the moment when he's looking through the window and he's really out of the space, I did feel bad for him because I realized he's lonely in his marriage.
Hmm.
He has no way to bond with his son currently. He felt like he even said, I felt like I was a stranger,
Yeah.
like watching my own kid. I'm sitting here and I'm like, that must be hard. He works in a job where he's providing,
Hmm.
but he's away a lot. It must be hard on his side. But this is Night Bitch, and we do see from her point of view where this was a long time coming, where it was like my marriage has been in trouble. And then we get the scene with the moms and the wine. And they
Yeah.
say, what happened with your husband? And I
Hmm.
I I cannot wait to hear your description of that moment and kind of how you took that in.
Yeah, I with the moms drinking their wine, it's like the first time she has community outside of the
Mhm.
baby interactions. I think it's really important because it's like equally just casual, but also her being like, "Oh, I accidentally killed my cat." Like,
Yeah,
and then the mom, like somewhere in the book, they're like the mom's like, "Yeah, I let the goldfish die, being purposely negligent," you know. And they all have like their moments, and it's
yeah.
this important
I let my bird fly
bonding.
away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this perfect a balance of both just like casual community, but like trusting each other with their mistakes
Mhm.
and seeing their mistakes in each other. And I think this is all like coming together with her being separate from her husband, her finding herself in her art again. And then like we have this scene, and then as it goes from like her finding her community, she has that idea of her art installation where she
With
uses
the
them
bones.
with the bones from
Yeah.
her like childhood. Then she paints her friends with dead animals,
Yes.
and like these really like salacious, powerful like
Mhm.
positions. Like they're not sitting like legs together, tiny on a chair. They're
No.
taking up space. They're like being
Yeah.
like lazy and like quote lazy, like lying. Like I
They're
thought,
relaxed. They're leisure
mhm,
and they're not nurturing. In that
yeah,
moment, they're not nurturers, they're the hunters.
yeah,
That's the way I took it with the
hmm,
the the we are hunters. Don't forget the mothers
hmm,
we hunt. And I felt
yeah,
like, people say like, oh, animals were hurt. Yeah, I don't support animals being hurt. I don't. But
hmm.
in this story, it was important that the women were seen once again as powerful,
It's
much like
powerful.
animals who hunt to
Hmm.
provide. Men
Yeah,
are not the only ones who hunt,
yeah.
so that
Like
was
a
important.
mother wolf has to both nurture her babies and also feed her babies,
Yes. Hell
right?
yeah. Motherhood
Yeah,
is not just, you
yeah.
know, flowers and pictures. It's a
Hmm.
lot more than that. And
Yeah.
and the scene where she's putting up all the art, she does say that famous, the big
Hmm.
line from the book about the first thing your child does
Hmm.
is kind of come out
Rip
of
you
you,
into,
rip you
yeah.
in half. Yes. And
Yeah.
I did share that with my mom. I'm like, hey, I shared this line with her. I'm like, well, what did you think? And my mom was like, she's like, I didn't see it that way. I saw that you were doing it's a natural thing that you had to do to live.
Hmm.
And she's like, but I loved you. I was in pain
Hmm.
because I loved you. And she's like, years now, 20 years later, 26 years later, it was worth it. It was
Hmm.
worth it in the long
Yeah.
haul. Yes. A
Yeah.
few hours of pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Few 19 hours of pain. But you know what I mean? Like looking back. My mom's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but my kids, my kids. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's true. And I'm like, it's the book the book about like mystical women within the film as
Hmm.
well. I
Hmm.
don't see that's the element you and I both loved. It's
Yes.
very present in the
Hmm.
movie. She does
Hmm.
think of the women with the wings, the bird women. She does
She
have a
mentions
daydream about
them.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
She doesn't do the emailing, which
No,
makes sense for the movie, though I did like that part of the book.
I did
Um,
too. The
but instead of
librarian kind of fills it a little
it
bit.
fills it, yeah.
Yeah.
And she becomes the mystical person. At one point, she's like,
Mhm.
"This book doesn't belong here," and like we, the audience, know that she gave her that book, and
Yes.
so it's like
It
I
kind of
do
fills
like
that
that.
a little.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yes.
thought it was a smart way of adapting that bit. But
Hmm.
the art installation at the end, like I love the paintings and I love the bones. And I like the taxidermy. I do
Yes.
think it was like, oh, it. I mean, obviously, I'm not an art critic, and I wasn't obviously there, but like I was like kind of a three. I seen like three different types of
Of art.
installations. Yeah,
Yeah.
which I was
And it
like,
was a pretty short period of
okay,
time too. I was like, okay,
yeah,
girl, I could have done
yeah,
with just the paintings,
yeah. I
but
think
the
so
bones
too.
were important from the book. And
The
I like that they
childhood in
did
the book, yeah.
I like that they did try to kind of bring it all together.
Hmm.
There's a scene with her mom in the grass and listening to music while she's like doing the art installation, I think.
Hmm.
And the mom holds her at one
Hmm.
point. And
Hmm.
I was just like, man, like the sense of acceptance.
Hmm.
Like her mom accepted her as a child and as a woman now, the woman she was becoming, it circles back to this moment in the present with her husband.
Hmm.
And they're in the he's I guess helping her break down the event.
Yeah.
And all the women at the event when she sees them, her art friends try to say some fucking stuff to her about like
Yeah.
this reminds me of this show and that. And obviously we know
They're
for the
just being,
past 2 years she's been
hmm
raising her son. So like
yeah.
how is she gonna see what are the
Her art
references
friends are
that's
just being
relevant?
assholes
Exactly.
and
Just
just so
comparison and
snob.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it just wasn't necessary. But like
Yeah.
she ends up breaking off the conversation and going to
Her
talk
mom
to the
friends.
librarian. Yeah, and the mom
Yeah.
friends. Everyone's super nice. The librarian's very proud of her. The librarian does kind of give a maternal vibe to me a little
Yeah.
bit.
Hmm.
The older, more sage woman
It's like
being
her
like,
future self almost.
yeah, good girl. Like I knew you had it in you. Yes,
Hmm.
girl. I was like, all right. The
She's like
friends were all there to support her.
they called and you listened, and she's like,
Yes. The call came and you answered.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
ooh. I'm like, are
what?
you talk to? I would have
Okay,
loved to see a dog that was like a golden doodle, but like all gray. It would have
yeah,
been cool to see an older dog
hmm
similar a joy in the pack to kind of reflect Wink Wink the librarian, maybe. It would have been kind of
yeah,
cool. I get
yeah,
it. It would have been maybe on the nose a little bit, but sometimes I feel like in movies you do have to guide a little bit more.
hmm
Visuals have to speak for themselves. The Three Dogs was great. Three Dogs.
yeah,
I took the Three Dogs as meaning where it's like the maiden, the bride, and the crone
hmm
similar situation, like the three phases of our lives. Um, but also the three women and the friendship and almost this trilogy, like nature a little bit. I
hmm
just felt like, gosh, this is so many elements. Where I'm like, this makes sense. But the scene, I have to say, the scene with her husband in the art exhibit breaking down, even the scene with her husband and her at the museum, and her trying to be present and say, like, I'm trying to enjoy our son at this age, at this time. I'm uh, doing part time. She was torn, and I like that she wasn't really sure, but she was trying to be present. She really, really, really
yeah,
was. And her husband was like trying to meet her there, but I don't think he really knew what she was trying to say.
hmm
But when they're finally alone again after the separation, I use that word very loosely. They're just taking time apart.
yeah,
He realizes what he was missing out on, and he
yeah,
makes a comment about how proud he was. He's like, "I see how much you had in you, and I feel like I was holding you back. I feel like I
hmm
didn't know this is what you would have wanted."
And his
And
apology is genuine too.
it
Like he's
is,
like I see my part in this. I'm sorry. Like you have
yeah,
all this, and you were taking care of our son, and now I know how truly hard that is because I
yeah.
couldn't do it for whatever amount of
He
weeks,
was
you know?
struggling. He was
Yeah.
struggling. I appreciated he admitted that.
Hmm.
And something about him admitting that and apologizing. I don't remember if he said he wanted to come home. I don't know what he said. I don't remember quite what he said, but whatever he said
Hmm.
really cemented to her that he had taken it seriously and he had listened.
Yes.
And they kiss
Yes.
and they reconcile.
Hmm. And then we have him, her, and the son playing bears in the
Yes.
like animal tent. And I think that's so cute that they find their own game together as a family where
Yes.
like, like bears like they hibernate together so they stay
Yeah.
together. Like it's just I thought that was such a fun twist
Yeah.
at the end and
I
it was
loved it.
really heart touching.
Yes, and
Yeah.
they made their own little like canopy, like
Uh-huh.
campsite in the house, and then it
Hmm.
pulls out and they're in nature.
Yeah.
And it was almost that dream-like, and then you also get the shot once again with her and her mom and the hug. It
Hmm.
all circles back to that sense of in family, there is already an animalistic sense of you want to feel protected
Hmm.
and you want to feel loved and you want to
Hmm.
feel provided for. If we could
Yeah.
keep it as simple as that, protection, provided, loved, included. You're part of the pack. We
Hmm.
got you. You know what I mean? That sense. Um, that was my favorite shot in the movie was the scene with them all under the little tent.
Yeah.
And also him, the husband, actively taking part
Yes.
and them finding something new that fit for all of them.
Hmm.
I preferred the ending of the movie
Hmm.
over the ending of the book because I liked that the son was included and I liked that Night Bitch remained a part of her. It wasn't something her husband also was. It was he found
Yeah.
his way eventually, but
Hmm.
he didn't. it felt more like meeting middle. In the
Yeah.
book, it felt a lot more like a twist. I didn't need it.
Hmm.
You know, in the movie, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually prefer this ending. And it's a lot more heartwarming
Hmm.
to me. And also the
Hmm.
sexy stuff at the end of the book. I love Spice as much as the next girl. I needed them to be a family and I needed him to meet her halfway.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
needed that wholesomeness at the
Hmm.
end. It was so good.
Yeah.
What was your thought on the last scene? Did you prefer it over the book or not?
I think I don't know if I prefer it over the book, but I think with all the changes they made in the movie, I think it makes the most sense. And I think it really like tied the bow on the movie. Like it fits everything. It like it's poetic, it's metaphorical, but also it's just adorable. And like I think it was a good way to end it. And then there's like that bonus little scene at the end where she's
Yeah.
back in labor and she's having a little baby girl.
Yes.
And I was like, that's a fun little touch that like she
Yes.
is going back into the trenches.
Yes, yes. The last scene
Mhm.
being that of, heads up for folks, this may be sensitive. We've discussed on so many things, but
Yeah.
the ending part with her giving birth, um, and him being with her, also her standing during birth. A
Hmm.
lot of people do different, things to feel
Yeah.
comfortable. But for her to stand and for the I imagine the doula or the nurse to talk her through it. Once again, Amy Adams very fucking vulnerable,
Yes.
a lot of blood, a lot of fluids, a lot of stuff going
Hmm.
on. I just felt like seeing her husband support her physically, like
Yes.
holding her from behind so that she would be able to do this.
Hmm.
Um, wow. I
Yeah.
just felt like to know she was having another child at the end. I imagine she said, and also during their argument, the scene where they're in the bedroom, and she says, I wish we had a conversation before we had a kid,
Hmm.
so we could discuss kind of how things were going to be split up and responsibilities. I wish we really did talk about it. I imagine because they had a second child, because of that conversation, they had another conversation about what they would
Hmm.
want going into this next chapter.
Yeah.
And I liked that she would have made the conscious decision now going in. We're not doing this unless we've discussed it very clearly. And
Hmm.
I like that it alludes to the fact that a second child means that they've grown as a
They've
couple and they're
grown
ready.
and yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I liked
Yeah.
that. It was
Yeah.
definitely the scene before the childbirth was the happy ending. We're all playing fade to black.
Hmm.
The childbirth I felt was the reality we needed. That once again loops back to that argument, the healing of I trust you to do this again, and I
Hmm.
trust you to add this new person to our family, and you will help me, and you will make space for whatever hobbies, my career, my dreams as well. We're not choosing just you, we're choosing ourselves and our children. And
Yeah.
I liked that. It was she's going into this because she knows he's got her back this time.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
ask everyone this question at the end. Do you think this movie is a good adaptation?
Mm. I think it was a good adaptation. I do.
Hmm.
I just think that I think the book is very different than the movie. I cannot express enough. The book and the movie are sisters. Similar elements, different. I feel like the two main characters were quite different as people.
Hmm.
I do feel like if you want more of the weird girl, metaphorical, very bunny-esque, where it's like, what's going on? Weird,
Hmm.
funky. Go for the book. Yeah, if
Hmm.
you're okay with that and the structure of that. If you're looking more for a like I guess, yeah, like a dark humor, honest portrayal of a marriage in trouble, your identity as a woman shifting and changing with childbirth, friendship, and in some ways codependence,
Hmm.
and motherhood and all of that together, and you're looking for a really complex movie with a happy ending, I would highly recommend Night Bitch the film. I just feel like
Hmm.
they're two different vibes in a lot of ways, two different genres. And I think that the marketing for this movie was a little bit off. I think that
Yeah.
the marketing presented it as something else.
It originally was just going to be a straight to Hulu movie,
Yeah.
but then with Amy Adams attached to it, she produced it as well, or was one
Mm,
of the producers. But like they picked up enough steam that it did get a theatrical release.
okay.
But I think that's also part of why the marketing wasn't
It was
as
a
much
mix.
as
It
it
felt
could have
I didn't know what
been.
they were going for. Yeah. After I
Yeah.
read the book, I was like, oh, how would you market this? Because it's very unique.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
I just feel like the book and the movie were it was great. But if we're
Hmm.
going from this book is exactly like the movie, that's not true. They're actually
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah.
But I feel like the movie complements the book. It tips its
Hmm.
hat to the book
Yeah.
and it does its own thing. And for once, I appreciated that it didn't copy it word from word, scene
Hmm.
from scene. It would have been kind of hard.
Yeah.
I liked that the book and the movie were different. For the first time in a very long time, I can admit I liked the differences. I enjoyed it more because it was different.
Hmm.
I was able to appreciate what the book offered, but I really enjoyed myself with the movie. And
Yeah.
I don't think I would have enjoyed myself if it was a play by play of
Yeah.
the
It
versus like,
wouldn't have gone
yeah,
well. I agree. Yeah. Like I think this
yeah,
is a good adaptation. I think the changes were good because adaptations for me, like they don't have to be like one
the
for
same.
one. It's
Yeah.
like, do you have like the heart or the thesis of the book? And
Mm,
then like how do you change it? How do you add it? And those decisions can make or break it. And I think they
100%.
did a really smart choice. They stuck to what they wanted to do and the changes went with the story they wanted to say. I
Mhm.
do wish it was a bit weirder personally.
Okay.
But that's just because I really loved the weird aspects of the
Mm,
book. I do think it's a fantastic movie. Like Amy Adams like deserves so much praise for
yes.
almost like I love all of her work, right?
Yes. And the
But
husband, the actor who played the
oh
husband,
yeah,
also,
he was
wow.
great.
I really liked his I liked his
Yeah.
performance. It must be hard to play a jerk
Yeah.
for a good portion of the movie. And then be super sweet
Yeah.
in the second half. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a
So
switch.
I think it's definitely like a good movie and I will recommend it to friends and but I've yet to decide if which one I like more. It like they're like you said, they are different
A
and
little
like
different.
I like them a lot for different reasons.
Hmm.
You know, like the stuff I loved about the book, I didn't like in the movie, and the stuff I loved in the movie, I didn't like in the book, you know. So, but that's
That's
okay.
true.
Like, you know,
I did.
it's
Also, the son, I felt his enthusiasm and his love for his mom
yes.
the whole time, versus in the
He
book,
the book he seemed a little selfish. I was like not that 2-year olds are all selfish
he
because
was
their
just
world literally is
the
themselves.
poop scene where he like tries to hand her like, and he knows
Yeah.
like, I'm not going in the bath. I'm gonna do in the diaper. That's real life. That happens.
Yeah.
But in the movie, there's scenes where when she can't find him, he hugs her. He knows,
Yeah.
like, I made my mom scared. Just,
Yeah.
playing with his dad and later on, and it there was just certain levels like I was like, he was so lovable and so sweet, and I
Hmm.
just like you care for him, and
Yeah.
great. I really
Yeah.
love the movie, and
Yeah.
like the book for me, one time read,
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't think it's a book I'm going to read again, but
Hmm.
I liked it for what it gave. Great book to start off
Yeah.
2025. Interesting book to kick off the year. I like weird books, though. I'm cool with
Yeah.
that. But I tend
Yeah.
to read them once, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this was a good one time read. This
Hmm.
movie, though, I could see myself watching the movie again. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
I could totally,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I could totally see that. Like with a group of friends, like discuss it,
Hmm.
and yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love your podcast so much, and I was so grateful to
Yeah.
be on it. And
Oh, thank
I guess my
you.
question for you is if you could, I like to always like not rate books and movies, but like I do try to kind of give it the end, like I loved
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
adored it. You know what I mean? Overall, did you prefer the movie or the
Hmm.
book?
I I
You
think
gotta
I s-
choose.
I think I still prefer the book slightly,
Okay.
but that's because I like really like was able to like sit there and dissect it. I'm sure like the movie I still was good. Like I think on Letterboxd I rated it like a 3.5, but really it's like more towards like a 3.75, maybe a 4. Like I think I need to rewatch it again. And
Mhm.
I want to, which is good. Like it's a solid movie, but I think I liked the book slightly more because of the weirdness, and I've not read much weird girl lit. So I think it stood out to me because of that. And like my English major brain was like, I'm connecting all the dots.
Oh my
So
gosh,
I think I
yes.
liked it slightly more, but you know, it, yeah,
I think my answer is quite clear. I'm a huge fan of the movie.
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of the movie.
I
I
love
and I
that.
I never say that, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of the movie, 100%.
Yeah,
Also casting wise, I did
casting was great.
even before I knew this was becoming a movie, even before we talked,
Hmm.
I did imagine the mother as as I at first imagined the mother as somewhat of like Nicole Kidman-esque, if we were gonna
Hmm.
get weird, because she's okay with getting weird. But I loved Amy Adams in the end. I was like, yes,
So
yes.
good.
And
Yes.
I adored her. And like I said,
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more transformation on the dog end. I would have
Yes.
liked her eyes to shift and change. Something
Hmm.
more like
A little bit.
something like
Yeah.
Teen Wolf-esque. I would not have been afraid for it to get a little bit campy. I wouldn't have been
Yeah.
afraid of the transformation parts, not to be afraid of it. Her ears getting bigger, her eyes
Hmm.
shifting, something like that. But
Yeah.
I could respect that those things did happen when she was alone
Yeah.
and at a really intense high emotional peak. And
Hmm.
I'm glad that they kind of left it just for her. And I
Hmm.
was okay, it was cool. So
Yeah.
yes, but my cat is like,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Hmm.
But yes, I'm so grateful to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
I hope
Thank
that everyone
you.
listens to your episode because it's so
Yeah.
wonderful.
Again, make sure go check out Alyssa's podcast. I'll link everything down below, and we'll
Thank
have an
you.
episode where I'm on her podcast where we talk about books we wish were movies or TV
Yes.
shows. So definitely go check that out. I'll of course share it on socials once it's out and stuff. But thank you, Alyssa, so
Thank you so
much.
much, Vanessa. I'm so
Yeah.
glad I could be on the podcast me at midnight, and I'm excited to release our episode next
Yay.
Friday, which will be fun.
Amazing.
But yes, there's so many books I hope become movies or shows. Your
Hmm.
picks were wonderful. I had fun sharing some of mine, and who knows, maybe we'll do another bookish review together on a movie.
Yeah.
Maybe something new, maybe
That'd be
something new, maybe
fun.
something old. I don't
Yeah.
know, but we'll figure it out. So
Well,
yes,
absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Again, make sure you share the podcast with your friends, rate us 5 stars, nothing else than 5 stars, please and thank you. Um, Follow us on socials at Read the Book First Podcast. And remember, read the book first.
read the book first.